Today we're going to deal with a new question. And it's a question that Peter is going to be asked by Jesus. A pretty pointed question. And the question is this: why did you doubt? Most of us can imagine and relate to this question because there are those times that we doubt. There are those times that we're unsure. Anyone ever doubted before? I had an experience in youth ministry really similar to this one right here. So I want you to watch.
Fall, and it'll be an exercise in building trust between one another. So Harrison, if you don't mind going first, step up here on this chair and close your eyes. All right, and then everybody fill in, and we're going to ask you to fall, and then they will catch you. So you have to trust us. So I'm going to count to 3. Just relax and fall. Okay? 1, 2, 3. No, wait! No!
Now, my assumption is it was staged. They planned to do it. But I had something really similar happen when I was an intern. We really encouraged this young girl. She was in high school. You've got to trust us. You've got to go. And finally, we convince her to get up on this box, and she's standing up here. And she is so nervous. I'm just trying to explain, hey, I could catch you by myself. And I said, when we say 3, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. The problem is, when I was explaining it, we weren't actually ready. And she took the 1, 2, 3 as the prompt to go. And she fell as we were watching her land. And so she hits the ground, and she's just like, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done this. And so my first thought is, well, let's do it again. You can trust us. As you can probably imagine, she did not trust us. She had a little bit of doubt. And what makes this question so hard, why did you doubt, I think is the first word. Why? Why did you doubt? What was the reason for it? We know that you doubted. We know that you doubt. And I say I know that because I doubt. Because I have times that I'm really unsure. I have times when I question. And times when I ask God, where are you in this moment? And it's a pretty difficult question. Why? Why? Why do you doubt? Why do we allow doubt to gain traction? Right? Because God, if you love us, God, if you hear us, God, if you're with us, then why? Why? My guess is, like I said, I'm not alone in those doubts. I'm not alone in those fears. And I think the beauty of this question, why did you doubt, is found in the context of the story. Because at this point, when Jesus asked this question of Peter, they are about 2 years into Jesus' ministry. They've been following Jesus for almost 2 years. And they've seen lame people walk. They've seen someone with bleeding touch the hem of his garment and it stop. They've seen him spit and make mud and put it on the eyes of a blind man and he could see. They have been with him and they have seen it all. So why? Why? In spite of everything that you have seen, everything that you have experienced, why do you doubt? Why, Peter? And so here's the context of the story. It's in Matthew chapter 14. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side while they dismissed the crowd. Before we go on, go back. Why are the disciples in the boat in the first place? Why are the boys in the boat? Because Jesus made them get in the boat. And then he dismissed the crowd. So after he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Why are the boys in the boat? Jesus made them get into the boat. And they are trying to press through this storm. These are experienced, some of them very experienced fishermen. They've been on the water. They've been in boats their entire life. And they're encountering this storm that's causing resistance. It's causing them to not be able to make ground. That word buffeted, I came across and I'm like, we don't really use that word. If you're in Texas, the actual word is buffet. It's when you go to Golden Corral and you walk out the door, you buffet. But no, it's basanizo, and it means to be tortured or tormented or harassed by the wind and the waves. It's opposing them. It's this idea that everything was against them. Everything was stopping them. Have you ever had a season in your life where it seemed like everything was working against you? A season where you experienced loss after loss after loss. A season where you're searching for jobs. A season where your marriage was struggling or maybe failed. A season where everything that you knew and everything that you held, that you were certain about, was now in question. See, those seasons where it seems like everything is against us, I think are the ones that cause the most strain on our faith. They're the ones where we do doubt. But I also believe those are the ones that we experience the greatest growth in our faith. Or at least we can. So continuing on. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said. And they cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid." And then Peter, as only Peter would do, jumps in and says, "Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water." Now, as any good disciple, I think Peter sees his rabbi walking on the water, and he wants to follow his rabbi wherever his rabbi goes. If you see your rabbi doing something, then as a disciple, as a follower, you want to do the exact same thing. And so he has this audacious request. Lord, if that's really you, I hear your voice. I believe it. If it is you, tell me to come to you on the water. And so Jesus says, come. And then Peter got down out of the boat. And here's the part of the story that we, I think, typically overlook, we miss. He walked on the water. And he came towards Jesus. He hears Jesus say, come on, come out of the boat. And he steps out of the boat onto the water, and he actually walks on the water. It's not he steps out of the boat and immediately sinks. And Jesus says, Peter, you're a moron. You didn't think you could actually do this. He steps out of the boat and he begins to walk on water. I think we live with this belief, this thought, that Jesus is going to calm the storms. But he doesn't calm this storm. Instead, he joins them in the middle of the storm. He walks out to them in their struggle, and he joins. And so he invites Peter, and Peter walks on the water, but when he saw the wind, he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried out, Lord, save me. And then Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. You of little faith, why? Why did you doubt? Peter, why did you doubt? I called you out of the boat. I invited you into the water. And you had the faith and the courage to believe. And you stepped out of the boat. And you started to walk on water. Why did you doubt? You've seen me feed the 5,000. You've seen me heal the sick and the poor and the lame. Why did you doubt? Did you catch it? The answer was actually in the story. Why did he doubt? He doubted because of what he saw. He doubted because he saw something that didn't look the way he thought it should look. His circumstances failed to line up with or meet his expectations. All right, because for most of us, we have our expectations of how life is supposed to work. And for many of us, and myself included, we have this faulty paradigm. If we follow Jesus and we're a part of him, then everything else is going to just work out. If I follow Jesus, then bad things aren't going to happen to me. And that's true until it isn't. It's true until the job falls apart. It's true until the marriage starts to crumble. It's true until the addiction grips you so hard that you don't know where to turn. It's true until your kids decide they want to live their life differently. See, it's true until it isn't. And then our expectations don't match our circumstances. You know, I've talked to so many people who have at different points struggled a lot with doubt, struggled a lot with faith, people who have turned and walked away from faith. And here's what I've kind of found. For most people, doubt does not arise from an intellectual crisis, but from an experiential crisis. For most people, when doubt arises, it's not because of what's up here. It's because of what's all around. It's because of what's happening. And I think a lot of times that experiential crisis can lead to more of an intellectual crisis. But the more people I talk to, it seems like there was something. My grandparents were raising me and they passed away and I was on my own. Or I said, I'm done with this addiction. I prayed God, and yet it was still there and I couldn't get rid of it. I couldn't step out of it. Or I asked God to rescue our marriage, and it didn't happen. We experience this experiential crisis. And it doesn't match the expectations that we had for life. Because we live with that faulty paradigm. And so it brings up a really important question. Can faith and fear coexist? Can faith and fear coexist? Can faith and doubt coexist? Is it possible to have faith but still be afraid? Is it possible to have faith but still have doubts? Because I feel like I grew up hearing and thinking that if I doubted, that meant I couldn't have faith. Or if I was afraid because of the circumstances, that I didn't have faith. But faith is not the absence of doubt. Faith is not the absence of fear. Faith is the trust that there is someone or something greater than my fears and my doubts. And that regardless of what I see, and regardless of how it meets my expectations, I am still going to follow and trust. Right? These aren't mutually exclusive ideas and concepts. It's not, hey, you have faith over here and doubt over here. And if you live over here, then this faith doesn't matter. But if you live over here, then you have no doubts. I think life is lived in the messy middle, where we trust and follow Jesus, and yet sometimes life doesn't unfold the way that we expect it to. What we see doesn't make sense and doesn't line up with our expectations. See, I think our eyes are a beautiful gift from God. But I also believe that at times they can be the biggest source of our doubt. Because you step out of the boat onto the water, and all of a sudden you see something. You see, as he walked on water, he saw the wind, which is kind of an interesting idea, right? Because the wind is something you don't see. You just see the effects of it. He steps out of the boat and he walks on water. And it's not that he sees it for the first time. It's been there all along. Right? They've rowed all night against the waves, against the wind. It's been there the whole time. But now in the middle of it, when there's nothing else surrounding him, protecting him, lifting him up, that's when the doubt seeps in. And Jesus, as powerful as he is, and we know has the ability to calm to the storm, to say, peace, be still, and the wind and the waves to die down. And yet he doesn't. He doesn't. He walks out into the middle of the storm with Peter. And as that doubt creeps into his mind, he cries out in fear, "Lord, save me." And Jesus reaches out his hand and lifts him up. And then I think the most fascinating part of this story, because if I were Jesus in this situation, I would say, hey, let's get back on the boat and let's talk about this. Let's unpack everything. He lifts him up out of the water. They're standing on the water with the wind and the waves all around them. And he looks at Peter. They're still on the water. Remember, why did you doubt? He asks him in the middle of the storm. Why? Why? And I think Peter could probably say, well, it's quite obvious. Do you not see what I see? It's all around us. That's why. You see, my expectations, and I don't know what Peter's expectations were. I don't know if he thought, I'm going to step out of the water and the waves are going to still, or I'm going to be able to do this regardless because Jesus is calling me. But now his expectations fail to meet his circumstances. And something occurred to me as I was reading this story. When we start to doubt one thing, we immediately start to search for something else to put our faith in. And I don't know what that is for you. I don't know what it was for Peter. I don't know if doubt started to come and he thought, well, how can I do this myself? I don't know who else is around me. I don't know what went through his mind immediately. But I do know what he does. He does the thing that he has done time and time again. He cries out, Lord, save me. Lord, save me. Rescue me. So why? Not just why, Peter, did you doubt? But what about you? Why do you doubt? And maybe the flip side is when you struggle to doubt, what is it that you have faith in? What do you put your faith in when those doubts and those fears creep in? Is it yourself? Is it your possessions? Is it your abilities? your intellect, your finances, your family, maybe what others think of you or what others see in you. Maybe it's in your family. Maybe it's in your ability to have all the right answers. When those doubts creep in, what is it that you start searching to now place your faith in? Why? Why do you doubt? Because 2,000 years ago, we believe that Jesus walked on this earth. And we believe these stories that we read where he fed 5,000, where he gave sight to a blind man, where he allowed the deaf to hear, the lame to walk, the mute to talk. We believe that he healed people of their sicknesses and their diseases. We believe that he's spoken to the grave and Lazarus walked. The question is, do you still believe he can do that in your life? Do you still have faith in the power of God at work in this world? Even when your circumstances don't line up with your expectations. Why? Why do you doubt? Father, thank you so much for this day. And Father, I think all of us can simply answer that question because life happens. Life happens in so many unexpected ways. And Father, as so often when those circumstances arise, we begin to try to put our faith and our trust in someone other than you. But Father, please remind us that the one who has the power to speak and still the storm also has the power to walk into the middle of it and invite us to walk with him through it. And yet, when we fail to do so, to still have the power and the strength and the grace and the mercy to lift us up out of the depths. Father, thank you for allowing us to be people who struggle and yet still inviting us to call you Father and friend. We pray, Father, that you would give us greater faith today. In Jesus' name, amen.